But yeah, I mean, I still feel like Ragdoll are. Can we say the better team? I'd say like the more decorated team in recent times. You know, like they've put some solid results together. They've won some third party tournaments. They steamrolled through open qualifiers number one. Their first match in the Division 2 CDPC was a win. Interactive Philippines was a loss. So I'd still feel like they've got the slight edge, but it is going to come down to the draft, and at least they've got second pick this time around. So they're going to be able to dictate how the latter stages go.
Well, they've taken something, maybe a page out of the book of Interactive Philippines, is Spirit Breaker, something we saw a lot from Escort through the open qualifiers. And how do you like this? Because
I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of the the Escort Spirit Breaker because every single time we watched it, it seemed to lose.
Yeah, until the game that you didn't watch it in it and he played really well on it. But
maybe it's me, you know?
maybe it is you. I don't know how I feel. I mean, I think it's more than likely GY playing it, and I don't know how I like that. I think GY is really good on, the Mars, the Pango. He has a lot of exceptional heroes. Just on some difficult heroes to execute. Maybe people might argue the Mars one, but it just feels like Spirit Breaker is just a little more brainless, if we can put it like that, as harshly.
Potentially. I mean, it could just be Yiv's hero, right? And it is also providing them something that they were lacking last time around in the BKB piercing control, right? You've got the Nether Strike, you're going to have the Fiend's Rip, you can eventually go into the Aghanim Scepter on the Puck as well. Kind of surprising they went the Puck this early, though, especially considering, you have second pick, so you're going to be able to pick it at this stage of the draft if you want. The enemy team has revealed the fact that Lina is probably going to be their mid laner, and by going the Puck, it just means you can get a Night Stalker that if he gets on top of you, you're pretty boned. And same sort of thing with the Lion. We saw how great Matthew was in that game, just with those instant hexes coming through. So this Puck could get punished if he's not too careful.
Back into it. Okay. I mean, again, it really feels like I can never fault like a Terrorblade lane. It's really strong with meta. It feels like there's not a lot teams have constructed to penalize him. And you're going up against a Terrorblade Bane, which is really, really strong lane setup, and Night Stalker is not the greatest laning hero at all. So this could be a little bit of trouble for Interactive Philippines, but they've got a lot of stuns and they have a crap load of nukes as well.
They do, but we saw last game that it was like basically dead on the 20-minute mark. Matthew just buys that Aghanim shard and he negated a lot of what the Terrorblade's damage potential was. They weren't able to burst through those heroes quickly enough before you were able to get the Ravage, the Global Silence off. At least this time around for Interactive Philippines, they don't have that huge teamfight control spell. But, it is still quite scary to be playing playing against a Lion as both the Puck and the Terrorblade. So I think a big part of the success of this game is going to be where is Matthew going to be showing on the map, assuming it is going to be a Matthew Lion. And yeah, is he going to be able to play around fog enough so that he's not getting charged by the Spirit Breaker and getting burst down really quickly to be able to start out a lot of these engagements?
What do you feel like the void is that they're looking to fill here for Interactive Philippines with this last pick? Is there a carry that's standing out?
Could be a Medusa. It's not too bad. I go on the PA instead. Okay. It's kind of alright. I mean, again, it's one of those heroes that Puck, extremely squishy if you're able to get onto her. So it's just going to be a case of how quickly are you going to be able to connect through with the rest of the team. You've got some minus armor with the Swarm coming through, and of course the Desolator, which Lina does take great advantage of, both for dealing damage to heroes as well as that pushing power. Same sort of thing with a Night Stalker. Does still feel a little bit single target focused though.
Timbersaw!
Choose your hero.
I'm Ragdoll. Before you say anything, I'm Ragdoll.
We don't have to go for different ones each time.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to get mine in first. When I have a game where I'm like, usually I take my time. I'll let you go first. I'll let you speak your mind, and I'm still deciding. And Yeah,
I want you to tell me why,
All right.
Ragdoll.
I think Interactive Philippines side lanes are absolutely atrocious. I hate them with a passion. Um, Maybe a bit too strong. Okay, PA is one of Mob's best heroes. The matchup is not great versus Terrorblade as the game goes on because he has a ridiculous amount of armor, so it's very difficult to burst. And TB doesn't need as many items as the PA. You can come online earlier, you can group with your team, take objectives. You don't need a steroid in the Battle Fury to find farm. So I think PA Weaver's a really, really exposable lane, and you're going up against a Timber. Keep in mind, this is what we saw GY play in game one, I think, versus Army Geniuses, and so versus Spawn 496, and he demolished. So I think the safe lane from Interactive Philippines is atrocious, and they've got a Night Stalker Lion lane, and Night Stalker is not a very good laner at all. So I think that's going to be super Ragdoll favored, and we've seen what they can do with a lead. When they have a strong laning stage, they can transition it into objectives. You need to convert, and you need to make sure you don't throw. Unfortunately, what happened last game, but I think Ragdoll have what it takes without a doubt. I think I'd be really surprised if they don't have a huge lead. Onto you, give me a spill. Let's hear.
I mean, I'm kind of in agreement there. I mean, the fact as well that you've got this GY Timbersaw against a lane that's basically all physical damage is a big concern. Like, how are you going to kill him outside of the Shikuchi, really? Of course, the Stifling Dagger can do a little bit super early on, but GY is good enough that he's going to make sure he's got a bunch of those reactive armor stacks available. I mean, I think the Interactive Philippines basically need to be perfect with all of their rotations coming through from the Lina and the Lion as soon as they hit up onto that level 6 mark. And even once they do, they kind of need to make a choice, right? Like, do we go for the Terrorblade or do we go for the Timbersaw? You can't get both. Yeah, I feel like that's splitting yourself a little bit too thin. And, you know, you're gonna get a kill most likely, but it's gonna be Ragdoll are going to be okay with that because they're going to get something in response to it, right? Like a TB can be farming in the jungle and pressuring waves with his illusions, or the Timbersaw can just be cutting waves, tanking up, taking towers on his own. So I'm kind of in agreement there with Ragdoll. I feel like, you know, when you get to the later stages of the game as well, that that PA just isn't going to have the same level of impact. And again, Interactive Philippines don't have a Ravage, Rolling Thunder, and Global Silence.
Yep.
You know, things are very bursty as opposed to just able to control the entire team fight this time around. So yeah, I'm probably going to favor Ragdoll as well.
What do you feel like is the avenue though for Interactive Philippines to maybe get a little bit of a lead in this game? Like, who do we have to look for to have a strong laning phase in an early game?
Probably the Lina. You're able to dish out some decent right-click damage to a Puck. Of course, Puck can just opt to shove waves and not really contest and try and trade against the Lina. So we'll see if there's any sort of sentry wards that get placed down inside of the dire mid lane to try and block up some of those small camps just to minimize the amount of farm that a Puck is trying to get.
I'm 100% in agreement. I think this game is very reliant on Yona. It's the lane they should win, or the other lane I don't believe is going to go in their favor. So I think Lina will have a really good time versus the Puck, and those early levels could be the X factor in finding these pickoffs. If you can shut down the Puck and then maybe get a couple of kills with Matthew's line, we saw what can happen when they get the blink at a decent timing. And this is not a free Puck game. At the early stages, if Puck, you know, doesn't die in the lane, maybe dies once but has good rotations, then he could get to a stage where he has enough net worth to itemize for that, say like an early Aeon disc. But if Interactive Philippines really put Puck in the grave early on, pre-blink on Lion, then that might be able to shut down Citrus's impact, and then we could just see maybe crumble with the levels that they can find afterwards.
Now, are you a fan of, like, color scheme drafts? Because it feels like Ragdoll kind of have a bluish, purplish hue to them. Or is that just my color blindness talking?
No, I mean, they kind of do.
The battle begins.
It's... I don't think I've ever mentioned it in a draft, and I've always been like... Chemo?
Might be in trouble
it
here.
is in a whole lot of trouble. Come on, go for it, GY. One more Timber Chain. Predict. Nice, selved up. Chemo's fine. I've never really brought it up in a draft. I've always been meaning to, but I just somehow always forget when there is the opportunity for it. you're kind of reaching a bit. Terrorblade, his icon's got a little bit of red. Timber's got a little bit of, yellowish hands showing in his icon. So you're kind of reaching.
Timber's face, his body.
Okay, so we're just not including the whole hero overall.
They need to have parts of it.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's a really skewy type of blue-purple that we've got. But I understand your colorblind issues can be a factor.
For sure. Alright, so bot side, Yif, Kimo, they're just going to look to do a bit of trading here. I mean, it's not the easiest lane for a Spirit Breaker super early on. He's just trying to feed as much of that experience through to GY as he can, just ensuring that he gets up into those early levels to make sure that there's absolutely no way that he's going to be dying. Like 2 points in reactive armor, how do you kill him outside of a rotation through from the Lina?
I think that's exactly what you want as well, to give a lot of the experience to GY, because if you can have him level 4 at an early stage, that frees up the map. Then the Spirit Breaker could connect to top with maybe second use of Metamorphosis, and then they can get a kill on the Night Stalker. So, yeah. And GY is unkillable. I think his eye doesn't die now. Unless some reason he dives under the tower, I just do not see how this Timbersaw dies.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? If you get up to level 4, you get the 1 point in the Whirling Death, you get the 2 points in the reactive armor. You're not only giving him even more experience by just leaving him solo without the threat of him dying, but just with those couple of skill points, it means that the PA has a rough time in farming as well. So I feel like Ragdoll are going to be very happy if they can get to that stage. And again, all of their damage is still physical. So even though he's only level 2 now, you're not going to be killing.
Lane that we're expecting to be more interactive, Philippines favored, is starting well for Yona, 10-4 compared to the 9-2. Now, because we would just bring up the Spirit Breaker and being able to make rotations, could we see him maybe put his impact mid and swing the disadvantage a little bit?
I think so. I mean, Lina again is one of those heroes that, for all the strengths that you have in terms of being able to trade with your range, with some good right-click damage, with being able to bully out the enemy with your spell usage, you don't have an escape. And it's going to be pretty rare that we see Alina go for something like a Boots, even just to give that little bit of an extra gap close against a puck, because how effective is it really? So if a Spirit Breaker is able to charge in onto him, he's dead, I'd say 90% of the time. You've got some good burst damage that you're going to be able to layer out onto him that I don't think even a Lion's going to be able to save him.
And we were both in agreement that this Lina feels like it's the X factor for Interactive Philippines, just to get them to a stage and make that space for PA's Battle Fury, for Night Stalker to hit his spikes at the night time, and maybe around Echo or BKB. So eyes on Yona. He had an exceptional Meepo game, and the respect came out, in fact, for Ragdoll. They're like, you know what? We've lost in the Meepo once. We're going to first phase it, because it can get to a stage in a draft sometimes. It slips by. It slips by. It slips by. You're at the last phase, and oh shit, we forgot about the Meepo. We've just been 24th pick, cheesed, and I mean, it's
They didn't have 24th pick, though. They didn't have it, so I'm still of the opinion that you could probably leave it in the first phase and maybe deal with it in the second phase, maybe even in the third, just because you're not going to be picking up first phase. There's just so many opportunities to try and counter it if you do.
100%. And I'm still excited to see if we get any more Meepos, because this is now we've got 3 players in Division 2. We've got 1, 2, 3. The Lil Gun. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 players here. Then you've got Alacrity. Now you've also got Yona. And was DB or was it Mamang Dai the Meepo player in Army Genius? It was Mamang Dai, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, 3 teams that have a Meepo specialist.
Pretty scary.
I mean, it's 2 for 2 so far.
100% win rate, right?
Yeah. 2 for 2 so far, so it's honestly looked pretty decent, I'd say.
Let's go with decent.
Okay.
It was at a rough stage. Well, the laning stage, right? Like, wasn't fantastic. It's just, of course, I don't think it was the Meepo that won them that game. It was an insane amount of team fight in the later stages.
Oh, Yif already making his first rotation. Top gets a lucky bash too, just to secure first blood for Menu Ping, and well, now Chemo's gonna mirror the movement top, so now you've left a Phantom Assassin in a solo lane versus Timber, and I tell you what, that is not fun.
No, I mean, will the Lion look to make his TP bot? No, he actually goes mid, so as soon as they see this on Ragdoll, they're just going to be like, all right, there's absolutely no way that GY is going to die, and he immediately goes for the Timber chain, just trying to bully out Marb.
I love this. I mean, you got creeps to tank. Is
Doesn't even
Marb in
have anything
trouble?
He can blink strike to his creep wave, but I don't know. But even if you don't kill him, he's bullied away. Like, how do you farm here?
You honestly might just glyph offensively as mid. They're on top of the Lina. Yona gets out to safety. They're still hunting Marb though. GY, look at all the pressure. Hey, Marb's got no assistance. Lion TP'd out. Weaver TP'd out. Marb is... Guys?
I mean, no one can TP, right? Weaver TP'd top, Lion TP'd mid, and as soon as they showed that, immediately, it was not a second of hesitation. Really liking that from GY. And now you've just taken complete control over this bot lane.
Yeah, you can't come back down. He's got full wave, almost level 6. When he hits 6...
Well, he's coming back down.
Well, as soon as GY hits 6, Marb's dead. Maybe he's a little bit stuck in mana.
Weaver doesn't have a TP. Neither does Lion for another 10 seconds.
I mean, this is real scary. We've seen what GY can do already in one Timber game, and this is looking like another free one with an exceptional start. So once he hits level 6, all eyes on how he can just shot Marb out of that lane. But again, like we were expecting, how active he can get on the Spirit Breaker, already starting to play around mid.
I mean, he's probably just going to charge bot. Why not, right? Like, that's where the pings are coming out as well. Just saying, look, just bully Marb. As long as he doesn't have a game, what are their other win conditions? And yeah, level 6, charge coming through. See you later, PA.
It's a rough life. Another first hit bash from Yiv after the charge, so definitely everything working in Ragdoll's favor to start this game, but another lane that Marb has got no assistance and started atrociously.
He'll get away though.
Oh, they even salve him too. If unable to find some vision, so Marb somehow keeps his life, but as long as I keep the catapult, I think that's another important thing.
Let's see if GY looks to tank it up. He's got the 7 reactive armor stacks. I mean, I think you should be tanking this for sure.
Oh.
Marb played that really well. Like, the fact that he was able to dodge for that long and only die once is just really... It's indicative of how good of a player he is, but it's just... You cannot win in that sort of environment where you're one-on-one against a Timber Saw that has the level advantage.
Beautifully done this time. The blow up the Weaver... It's without the catapult though, but as long as GY starts to tank the tower, it should end up falling. But now you've got a Phantom Assassin in the jungle. And you have about a 20 last hit disparison between the cores, and I tell you what, VT Fade is going to use this advantage so incredibly well.
Yeah,
and they have to rotate Yona down bot. I mean, she's got Laguna Blade, but GY is still posturing on the outskirts. He's happy with Yiv dying. If you keep the Timber alive, he'll still be able to have firm control of bottom.
Yeah. And it's not like this PA is a TB, right? Where you can look to rotate to the jungle at level 5. You can, you know, get a few creep camps with the use of your illusions, tanking up, of course, all of that armor just provides you a lot of that sustained potential. No, you're a PA. You might have a little bit of evasion coming through from the 1 point in the blur, but other than that, it is very slow. Oh, getting a little bit lucky with that drop, though.
Always love it. It does feel like sometimes Gaben is smiling on you. You're behind, minute 7, you're in the jungle, and you get a goddamn possessed mask. You know, Marb, at least he's got some assistance coming out, but a hero that will not farm at a rapid rate, and Dire are already starting to create some stacks, and Menu Ping's also looking for a solo kill on Chemo. Couple of second cooldown with Brain Sapper's gonna cost him the kill as Chemo just scurries out to safety. But they found the vision though. If should be able to claim the kill with the charge damage. One more hit afterwards, and this is a level 4 Spirit Breaker, and he's been roaming too. Like, I can't stress how high of a level he is.
Yeah, he's done a crazy amount. Timber Saw, top of the net worth, takes the tower. There's nothing stopping him from farming around this bottom tier 2. Maybe he just needs to be a little bit careful when Yona's not showing, but I'm sure they've kept track of the fact that he's low-ish on mana. That bottle refill might make it a little bit more dangerous for him, but you still need to address this mid lane, right? If you leave the lane, Citrus is just going to shove it in.
Dire's top tower is
They're
under
on top
attack.
of the Weaver once again. Sakuchi up shortly. We'll see if the damage is going to be enough for GY showing up and Citrus. I really want to see a team that is able to cement a strong laning Sage versus Ragdoll, because it really feels like the 4 drafts we've seen from them so far in Division 2, they've had exceptional lanes and just snowballed from there.
Radiant's middle tower
I
is
mean,
under
he's just
attack.
rotating around looking to take every
Dire's
single
top tower is under attack.
tier 1 tower. I mean, they're going to go for a trade, but this is 4 heroes committed to try and take a top tier 1 tower, which is the lowest priority for Ragdoll to look to try and keep. I mean, sure, it'll give Marb maybe 1 or
Radiant's
2 extra
middle
camps
tower
that he
is
could look
under
to farm
attack.
under, but again, you're still a
Dire's
PA.
top tower
You don't
is
have that
Radiant's
same
middle
level of
tower
farming
has
potential.
fallen.
You know, he's been forced to go into this early Blightstone just to
Dire's
assist
top
a
tower
tiny
has
bit
fallen.
with that farming.
It's where is the threat of like a spirit vessel coming out? Do you feel like Weaver has to go for that this game to maybe offer some kill threat on GY, or is it even going to be too late that you can't consider it?
I mean, I think it probably is going to be too late, but, you know, maybe you just need to try and force it out nice and early through the use of, like, I don't know, like having the Lina initiate onto you or having the Night Stalker look to commit quite heavily. But again, you just don't die, you know? Like, that's the issue. You know, you can, with the Lotus Orb on the Timber Saw, you want to, of course, be blocking up the, or at least reflecting the things like the Laguna Blade, the Finger of Death, any sorts of stuns, but I think you're very happy just to use it nice and early. The Spirit Vessel probably isn't even going to do that much because you don't have the damage potential to burst him through after that's popped.
And yeah, by that stage, I mean, he's got Hood coming out. Probably will have your Scepter by that stage, so he'll have some way to dispel. He even got Nightmare too. We're not even taking that into consideration of the potential of just your posturing, because it really feels like Interactive Philippines have to drop everything to kill GY, as they'll run into him and instantly smoke thwarted. They just have to beeline in the opposite direction.
There are so many heroes that they need to commit everything to kill, right? Like, even a Bane. A Bane is very survivable.
Yep.
You know, sure, if you, like, insta-kill him with the likes of Marb. Speaking of Marb, you might get the Nightmare onto him. Here comes the charge. They're going to delay it for as long as possible to make sure that the Spirit Breaker can look to connect.
He's got
Actually,
creep
he-
shortly, so should be
got
able to
stunned.
get some Phantom Strike distance away, but he's not even going to go to the creep wave as GY already postures just in case. Like you said, though, the Spirit Breaker did get intercepted in the mid lane, so they find a kill across the map, but they've really shut down PA, and Citrus is content with just dropping the coil as well to blow up the line. Now, it does put himself in a bit of a compromised position as Escord's gotten on top of the park and used the perfect use of the chain control, just waiting as long as possible, knowing that the abilities were on cooldown so we could hold the silence into the last second.
Yeah, really good understanding as well. He was
Dire's
counting
middle
the
tower
seconds
is
of that
under
illusory
attack.
orb to be available again.
Dire's
Really nice play
structures are
coming through from
fortified.
Escort. Even using a few of those right clicks to force out the glyph on the tier 1 tower, you're still going to have a siege creep hitting it as well. So again, Luciano, Escort doing a great job to try and carry his team back into this game.
Now they will suffer.
What do you feel like the Boots of Travel and Leaners is going to be able to provide Interactive Philippines here? I know it's a pretty core build that we see often, but is there some different playstyle we might see from Lena?
The only thing that I could think of is maybe just putting someone, like dangling someone out there as bait to try and get the enemy team to commit onto them, and then just having those multiple layers of counter initiation coming through as a result of that commitment. So the question is, who is that hero? Because right now, everyone
Bane.
feels pretty damn
He's
squished.
trying to face check the triangle, but Citrus already revealing a super early blink.
Radiant's bottom
They're going to be able to bring down both supports on Interactive Philippines. So will they chemo? Quick fingers with the time lapse. He's out to safety for the moment, but Citrus is still hunting. He should have the burst potential. So a little bit cautious. We saw what happened with Escort, but this time it's daytime. So the Night Stalker will not offer any turnaround potential. So in the end, it will be a 2-0.
Just seems like classic Ragdoll to me. You know,
Yep.
even just looking to take away the enemy triangle. Taking away the bounty rune, taking away a bit of a stack here.
Radiant
Marb's going to
are
look to try and
scanning.
make his way through, but he's only got one portion of that Battle Fury completed so far, so it's a scary place for him to be. Snipes away the Dark Troll Summoner.
GY? Okay. They're coming. They need both ultimates. Laguna, Finger of Death. That has to be the
while they're
only
doing
way.
that, TV's just farming, right? Like, you're forcing such a heavy commitment onto someone that's pretty damn tanky already with that Hood of Defiance, with, of course, just being a Timbersaw. And can you imagine if they don't kill him with Finger of Death and Laguna Blade and everything else that they want to use on top of him?
Has to be so demoralizing. Like, you see this is the only avenue back in. If we don't kill him with Laguna, Finger, and maybe someone else, how the hell do we kill him? As the game goes on, there's just... That's it. That's like, okay, GY is just unkillable. We know that for the whole game. Good luck. We have to just rely on him diving underneath tier 4 towers.
Speaking of dive, they were going for a bit of a charge there onto Marb, but
Radiant's top tower
ended up
is
cancelling
under
it.
attack.
I think you just need to get to the stage where it's like, look, we're not going to kill this Timbersaw. We just need to ignore him for as much as possible. You know, if they're able to get the chain lockdowns in onto Citrus, then I'd say that's a big win, because he is still a lot of their tempo, is a lot of what enables their team fights to happen with the use of that Dream Coil.
Down bottom.
The issue is...
And you ping, it's just been, is waiting here for quite some time, setting up for a target to just run blindly into the high ground. It's only got GY at the moment, so the damage from the Timber's not enough to spring the trap and kill off the Night Stalker. With the extra reinforcements, Interactive Philippines be able to push back that attempt.
Okay. So it would have been nice, of course, to be able to pick up that kill, but it did cause a big
Dire
rotation
are
through. The
scanning.
plus side for Interactive Philippines is that Marb has gotten more and more time to farm. He needs to be careful with his positioning, so you can just see the constant pings coming through on the map, and the charge is looking to continue. The TP back will be in time, though. He understands the pressure of having Yif constantly charging at him.
I just love how Dire are playing. We got GY, VT faded by the triangle. They're going to look to continue to take some farm away, and it's a stack as well that was brewing ever so much, just waiting for the Battle Fury. And now he won't get that opportunity. This is something that Ragdoll do really well when they're on Dire's side and they have an advantage. They always posture, looking to take whatever farm away they can. They've just blown up the line. They're going to look to Yona next, still without the BKB. So once they get on top of the Lina, there's no hope of her being able to reset the positioning as Ragdoll looking to make sure they can clean up this fight with ease. A buyback on Matthew, furthering the deficit and making it just that much more slower of a blink
Top
timing.
tower is under attack.
It's actually a
Dire's
really
middle
significant
tower is
deal.
under
That
attack.
is not worth the buyback at all.
Radiant
I feel like the
structures
one
are
avenue
fortified.
back into this game is finding
Radiant's
the
top
right
tower
target,
is
whether it
under
be
attack.
the Terrorblade or the puck, and getting that
Dire's middle
instant burst
tower
onto
has
him
been
before he's
denied.
able to get a lot of the elusive spells off, whether that be Manta Style, BKB,
Radiant's top
Phase
tower
Shift, all
has
these sorts of
fallen.
things. So the fact that he bought back is just going to delay that so much further, and this feels like a bridge too far for Interactive Philippines. I know I was thinking that at around the same point in time in game number 1, but there is no big ultimate that's going to bring them back into this game.
It really felt like the Lion Blink was that thing. Just
Yeah.
jump in, Hex, find a pick off. But GY is just sweeping across the map, almost being like this raider, locking into PA whenever possible, just trying to really minimize her farm. And with the top tower claimed and losing all your tier 1 towers, you really struggle with defending your triangle. You see Kimo is trying to do his best possible as a support. They've almost got like a triangle perimeter drop with the sentries, but they need to get crafty with their ward placement.
Yeah, I mean, if GY's the radar, Yip is the homing missile, like constantly
Yeah.
just targeting the priority target and looking to put a ton of pressure up onto the top side. They've even got vision on where
Radiant.
you're looking to move
They're looking
around
to
here
turn
and
this
smoke.
back around, you know, along with the Dark Ascension on top of the Terrorblade. Menu Ping is actually going to play aggressively instead of nightmaring the Terrorblade, so they'll lose the life of the core, but once again, it still feels like whenever GY's around, they have to avoid the Timber. But Jonas doing it at a pretty rapid rate at the moment thanks to the movement speed, and GY is falling lower and lower in the resource department as Escort once again locks onto the park. So Interactive Philippines somehow and some way come out ahead.
It's because GY wasn't there. That's why. He was just playing around that mid lane. I mean, they are being very effective with their timings on both teams, to be honest. Interactive Philippines with the fight that we saw at, I believe it was the 14.5-minute mark inside the triangle when all of their stacks were being taken. That isn't the time to take the fight, and Ragdoll realized that, they had just used the Dark Ascension just prior to that. They didn't have the damage to try and contest what they were trying to do. This time around, though, 17 minutes, Dark Ascension available. Even if it didn't expire, you would have had that nighttime still to play around with as Escort, and he's having a pretty damn effective game. Level 13, second highest on his team, has only died the one time. It's a really impressive showing coming through again from Luciano.
Yeah, player that we got to see a little bit of time on Execration. Who had a stint in Neon as well. I think back in 2020 at some stage, and he's just been growing as a player. I've been super impressed with his performance so far this series, though. The Pango game in game 1, and the Night Stalker's, like we were kind of saying, not the greatest laner. You fall behind, it can be very difficult to show some impact, and he doesn't have the greatest net worth, but he has items to make stuff happen, and we're gonna see that continue. The blink reveal. Look at try and clean off the Bane as best as possible. Citrus actually going to jump into the silence, but still, he'll land the coil nonetheless. With the BKB reveal, Yona's going to look to reposition, but runs back into Yif's charge. It can land the Nether Strike. They've also got the answer, the TPing out Lion. So they'll be able to thwart that attempt and find a 3-for-1 trade as Ragdoll, all signs of life for them in that team fight.
Getting a little bit lucky there, just killing the Night Stalker, and then the bash coming through from the charge, still connecting through onto the BKB Lena, being able to set up into the Nether Strike, and yeah, with the TB using the Metamorphosis, it's still a Lena, right? Only the Boots of Travel, not too much in the form of any kind of tank ability. So even with that BKB being popped, very easy to be able to take her down. And then Ragdoll, that is one thing that I really do admire about them. They're one team that looks to push their advantage whenever they do game. Win a team fight, immediately into Roche, and they'll be able to claim it just in time before Interactive Philippines look to show up.
Chemo trying to scout out, see whatever he can find, but yeah, like you said, VT faded ages. I really like the itemization he's gone from the Terrorblade. Nothing too chaotic, nothing crazy, just a lot of tankiness. The Dragonlance one, Skadi Rush. It really feels like Interactive Philippines are playing off the back of bursting a hero down, resetting, and then utilizing the Dark Ascension vision to maybe pick another hero off. So, with all his items on VT faded, he's got about 2k health, and that's exactly what you need in a game like this.
Just pure stats. That's all he needs right now. And the early Skadi is definitely going to provide that for him. Going into the BKB next, understandable. Means that if you survive through that initial burst, you're of course going to be able to BKB sunder some sort of target, even if a Night Stalker's right on top of you. Even more now if he looks to go into... Okay, went into the attack speed. Was kind of thinking he might look to go into the health portion, but maybe just feeling that with that Aegis, it's going to be a farming sort of Aegis where he's going to be able to get enough net worth that whatever items that he gains with the extra 30 attack speed is going to offset the potential HP he could have gotten in that time.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
When do you even consider a high ground siege for Ragdoll? Is it... You happy with the Aegis? Just up you go? Catch up, Chemo. Time-lapse forces the break of the coil, so a quick and easy kill.
Looks like they're keen on going into this high ground now. I mean, they're going to need to make full use out of this Dark Ascension because it's daytime outside of that. Really liking the builds as well from both Puck and Timbersaw, both into the Yule Scepter, so even if that Night Stalker is able to get in on top of you...
GY is actually going to swing in. So much damage. Level 16 Timber, Citrus as well. They blow up Escort. I mean, Dark Ascension completely wasted. Maybe they can get rid of the first life. Nice use of the Nightmare though. VT Feder turns it back around. The Bane play exceptional once again to keep the first life. They'll bring down Yona on the backline. Marb as well on the outskirts of the team fight, trying to do whatever he can to give themselves some hope to surmount this defense. But it's all Ragdoll at the moment. I mean, they've lost Metamorphosis, but still all three cores standing sturdy in the front lines.
And it's daytime now, so even with this Night Stalker coming back up, you're not overly scared. They might look to try and stay and take this range, but no, they're just going to back off in time.
Go illusions. Oh.
It's ranged. Unhealable damage, it's fine.
Unhealable. Extra
Got
gold.
a bit lucky there on Marb. He got that blink in onto the Bane, who was Fiends gripping a BKB'd Lina. First hit crit ends up taking him out. Otherwise, that fight is very heavily in Ragdoll's favor.
Do you want? Go back to the Brigand's Blade. Oh, they're gonna lose it. Will they?
Yeah, probably.
We're gonna see chemo. I smoked up. GY leading the charge, parting their way through the Radiance Triangle, and Matthew's gonna be the target.
See ya later.
Beyond gold like GY. I mean, we put a lot of emphasis on his hero pull in game one and how exceptional of a play he's been for Ragdoll. And I mean, his timber is continuing to be such an issue.
12-0 and 2.
Radiant's
The
top tower
charge
has
does go
fallen.
just underneath the outpost, so Yona
Radiant's
is just in
middle
time,
tower is under
able to
attack.
TP out to safety. But they know where Marb is. They know he was
That they
farming around
do.
that sort of area. Dream Core is going to be used onto him. Oh, going for the instant
Mob
crit there.
just jumps into it. He's like, all right. I mean,
has to.
yeah, if Puck's running into me, there's more than likely other heroes. Let me just jump.
he
Why
doesn't
not?
dash
There's
out,
no
he
way
doesn't.
I get away.
Danog is foul play.
I mean, I think they got the Brigand's Blade on Radiant. So, let's go, boys. That's the way. You can do it.
They've done it.
Radiant's courier has been
Meanwhile, they're gonna lose another hero. GY, so much damage.
Radiant's middle tower.
And these
is
towers are
under
gonna
attack.
melt as well. You're not only going up against a Terrorblade, but also the early flamethrower.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
I don't think it should hit buildings.
Radiant's middle tower
I
is under
think
attack.
it's strong enough on its own, man.
Look how much damage.
It's so stupid.
Alright.
Radiant's middle
Well, they
tower
got Blink
has
online. We saw game one completely turn back around, and
fallen. Radiant's
when
middle
Matthew was able to
barracks
use
are
this to
under
their
attack.
advantage, they need to get on top of menu ping. They'll do so with a Sans, but still VT
Matthew's
Faded
dead.
has had long enough of a time to pop the BKB, and they're just gonna dive underneath tier 4 towers as Jonas the target. VT Faded with the helper, Yif can dive Lina with ease simultaneously. The three other heroes from Ragdoll will deal with Escort. This is going to give you so much confidence in a series like this. You absolutely demolished the laning stage in the early game in game one, and now that's exact replication in game two as well. It's just been all Ragdoll. I know they lost game one, but heading into game three, there has to be a ridiculous amount of confidence for them to take it.
Absolutely. I mean, this time around, I don't think they even specifically banned it out, but there wasn't that big team fight turnaround that Interactive Philippines could look to rely upon. You know, they went for a lot more of a conventional draft, which is kind of what you have to do when you've got that first pick, but it didn't feel like it gelled. Like what synergizes together basically on Interactive Philippines draft this time around, right? Like oftentimes you see a minus armor draft or a global strat draft or, you know, a draft that's really hard to kill. I mean, you compare that to Ragdoll, right? You've got a clear win condition with a Terrorblade, who's one of the strongest carries in the game right now, that even if the lane doesn't go well for you, you can rotate through the jungle. And then you've got a Timbersaw pairing that together with a Spirit Breaker. You're always going to be able to get these pickoffs throughout the map, or at the very least have a ton of vision to be able to farm safely on your win condition, which is the Terrorblade. And then on top of that, you just kind of... I don't want to say pick tiers into the Timbersaw because it was the last overall pick, but it just made a free Timbersaw game, basically.
I'm convinced you can't have bad lanes versus Ragdoll. This is... I really feel like it's 4 games we've seen them now just have a exceptional laning stage where they, again, convert it to early towers. They make sure they have a hero that can take objectives early, being that Terrorblade. Like, a lot of time you can see this hero fall back, farm the jungle like you're saying, but Arj is really, really good. Sorry, VT Faded is exceptional at being able to connect with Metamorphosis, using it to group up and take these towers just to open up the map and further their control. And it was just, we were seeing the writing on the wall as soon as the draft was occurring. Their side lanes were atrocious. The Night Stalker along with the Lion lane, you just free farmed on the Terrorblade. I mean, we saw what happened with the Timbersaw versus the Phantom Assassin matchup. You cannot have that. I need to see a draft from you where you're able to set yourselves up to compete versus Ragdoll in the lanes.
Yeah, I mean, the only lane that it basically drew even, it was like a 200 net worth lead to the Lina over the puck, but that's nothing at the 10-minute mark. You know,
Yep.
when you compare it to some of the other lanes, it was like a 2,000 net worth lead for the Timbersaw at the same point. So I feel like, yeah, you need to draft at least. I mean, 2 winning lanes is the ideal, right? But you need to not draft 2 losing side lanes for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to have a really rough time. And, well, just weren't able to do that this time. But it means that we have a game 3. They're pretty rare so far.
are,
We've
apparently.
seen across the entire DPC, not even just the Southeast Asian region.
I think Division 1 hasn't had a game 3, and for Division 2, it was just Polaris versus Talent. So, yeah, game 3s are incredibly rare coming at the moment, but we've got our first one here. Interactive Philippines Ragdoll going the distance in our first series of the night. We'll see you guys after the break.